Hey, I just want to welcome you and congratulate you on setting up this strategy call. I look forward to speaking with you personally, and together we're going to develop an awesome plan that's going to take you from wherever you are to take that weight off and get the life that you deserve. Now, you must have done something right, because about over half the people that apply for this do not actually qualify. And so the fact that you made it to this video means that you did something right. So congratulations on that. I just want to also remind you to make sure that you have this call set up on your calendar. That way we don't forget about the phone call, because I am going to call you personally. It's going to be from a Houston phone number as well. And you also should get an email and a text reminder. An email, or maybe the text reminder might be optional. I don't know if you clicked on the link or not for the text reminder, but that could be optional. But you should get some reminders regarding the call. So anyway, so I want to go over my story and why I'm actually doing these calls and why I'm just reaching out, and how I can really help you as well. So a little bit about myself. I came from a small town in Texas, Port Lavaca, Texas. Probably haven't heard of this town. It's a very small town. But it was about 16 years ago, and I moved to the big city of Houston, Texas. It was such a huge, drastic change for me moving to the big city. I felt lost all the time because it was just so huge compared to this one little road that we had in our small town, this one little circle that I drove around, over and over, that same little circle in the small town. And being in the huge city and all these freeways and people were driving, over 70, 80 miles an hour, it was overwhelming at first. And so what happened to me is when I initially moved to Houston, Texas, I lived in the inner city, and within about 6 months to a year, I started really putting on the weight. I wasn't overweight before that, but once I moved to Houston, I was just gaining weight like crazy. And, I became pretty obese at that point in my life. So I got with my wife, or ex-wife, now ex-wife, or the girlfriend at the time, and we got together, and I remember telling her, I got to lose weight. I got to start a diet. I got to do something, because I was just gaining weight, and people were telling me, hey, what happened to you? You used to be in shape. You're so big now. You're so out of shape now. And a lot of friends would tell me that. And I didn't even really realize it until one day I just looked in the mirror and I was like, what happened to me? Okay. And so I tried so many different diets. I've tried the Atkins diet and the South Beach diet and, the alkaline diet and all these different diets, and did calorie restriction, did these juice fasts, all these different things, and nothing would work for me in the long term. I think with calorie restriction, I did lose a bunch of weight initially. I lost a lot of muscle. I just didn't look right. Looked real kind of like this skinny. And then all of a sudden, I just started gaining it all back, and it slowed my metabolic rate. And I gained all this weight back, and it just didn't last. And it was just so frustrating. I never could keep the weight off forever. Okay. And so we fast forward years later. Okay. A good 13, it was probably about 12 years later or so after all of this. And there was this one night I'm sitting in this grocery store parking lot, and everything changed. I was on the phone, and I was felt myself kind of going in and out of consciousness, and I didn't know what was going on. I heard this screaming. I'm on the phone, and I hear this voice, and it's like, "Are you on drugs?" And I'm like, "Who is this? What's going on here?" And I realized it was my ex-wife, and she's like, "I'm gonna call the cops on you." And I didn't know what was going on, and I realized later I was actually having these kind of violent outbursts. It was very strange and very weird, and it was very unlike me. And I started going in and out of consciousness. Then later I kind of woke up, and I looked up, and there's this Asian lady, and I'm next thing you know, I'm in this Chinese restaurant, and I don't remember what happened between these 2 points, and it was just in and out of consciousness. I wake up, there's this Asian lady, and it's 10 a.m. at night, and I look to my left side, my son's sitting next to me, and I realize we haven't eaten yet. What is going on? It's 10 p.m. And she's like, are you okay, sir? Are you going to order some food? And I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? So I remembered what happened earlier. Finally, I kind of recalled. And so we were at our house earlier, and there was some contractors working on a wall in my restroom, and they tore down this wall, but inside of that wall was this serious toxic mold issue. Like, it built up bad, and they put their shop vacs inside of that wall. And what happened is that the shop vacs just blew all that toxic mold all into the bedroom and everything. So I was in there for a few hours, and I was breathing in this stuff and just constantly breathing in this stuff. And the result of that, what it causes, it's a mold called Aspergillus, and what it causes is serious toxicity, DNA damage. It causes more weight gain, extreme tiredness, nausea, memory loss, all these different types of things. And it was pretty bad. So days later, I'd be at a restaurant and somebody would come up to me and be like, "Hey, Anthony, how's it going?" And I was like, "Who are you?" Like, I completely lost memories where I couldn't even remember who people were. And that's just how bad it was. So the thing is, it was hard for me to get out of bed, seriously hard for me to get out of bed. And at the time, I was already overweight as it was. And so this just slowed me down even more. I couldn't even hardly move. I just felt sick all the time, just this nauseated feeling all the time. And it was just really horrible. And I just kind of really just started to get depressed. It was really, really bad. I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to be there for my son. And, I couldn't even be there as a father, and I could barely even make it to work or anything. It was really bad. And so finally, I made a decision to go to my doctor, and I should have made that decision, months ago, because it was a few months later when I finally made the decision. And so I went to my doctor, and, he told me, he was like, "Okay, you've been severely poisoned. You've been exposed to some extreme toxic materials or whatever." And he said, "You need to start a ketogenic diet." And I was thinking at the time, another damn diet? I'm sick of trying all these diets. I can't do another diet. And then the type of diet that he said, this ketogenic diet, I'd never heard of this thing before. He was like, it consists of high fat, low carbs. And he was like, you cannot have your oatmeal in the morning. You can't have breads. You can't have pastas. And I'm like, are you crazy? This makes no sense at all. How am I going to have energy without my oatmeal, without all my, all the carbohydrates? It's the main thing on the food pyramid. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. And so this whole thing just didn't make any sense. And I was about to just, tell him forget this whole thing. But the thing is, I knew that he's helped so many people before. He's worked with professional athletes, NBA players, professional boxers, and MMA fighters, and all this kind of thing. So I knew he's helped these people. And in the back of my mind, I was like, I know he can help people. He's helped people before, a lot of people. So you know what? I probably should just trust him. What do I have to lose? There's nothing I can lose. And so I made a decision. I made a decision that night. It was hard because I remember that night laying in bed, tossing and turning, just thinking, am I going to have cravings? How's this going to work? No carbohydrates. It didn't seem right at all to me. But I decided that night, I'm going to make a decision. And I'm going to go ahead and start with this diet and this plan that he had laid out for me. And so the next day, I woke up, I cleaned out my fridge, and I started buying all these keto type foods, MCT oil and all these different things, and started on this diet. And I started doing it step by step, like it was laid out for me. And so if I fast forward 7 days later, I was in this Taekwondo class all of a sudden, right? I'm in this Taekwondo class. It's board breaking day. I'm breaking board after board with more power than I've had in my entire life, more energy, more focus. And I'm sweating profusely. And as the sweat's dripping, I'm thinking to myself, as sweat's just dripping down on the ground, and I'm thinking to myself, I have more energy than I've ever had in my life. And I'm running off of fat for fuel. And it was like this epiphany that I had. And I was thinking, wow, this diet is going to change my life forever, which it did. And so that is the story. That is what happened to me. And that is how I discovered this diet. So maybe for you, you probably weren't poisoned in your own home or this or that. But in your case, maybe it's 50 pounds you need to lose. Maybe it's 100 pounds you need to lose. I don't know what that is for you. Maybe you're just tired all the time and it's hard to focus and it's hard to have that energy, or those cravings are so bad. or just getting over those different things, right? Or you find yourself in the refrigerator late at night, subconsciously opening up the refrigerator and not knowing why you're getting there. Or maybe it's just you have this stress in your life, and every time you have stress with your spouse or whoever that is, you find yourself in the fridge with the Oreos or with the ice cream or whatever that is. I don't know what it is for you, but what I do know is I know that the diet that I've discovered can change your life for the better. And that's why I want to show you exactly what you need to do to take yourself from where you are now to that perfect weight, that perfect health, feeling more attractive, and having that life that you deserve. Okay, so typically when we do these phone calls, for most people, there are two major issues. And the first issue is usually cravings. For a lot of people, cravings is a huge issue. I don't know if that's your issue or not, but if it is, we're gonna make sure and we address it. Whether it's biological, whether it's neurochemical, whether it's just from stress, right? From dealing with a lot of stress in your life, and it just creates those cravings, or maybe even lack of sleep could create those cravings. Whatever that is, we're gonna deal with it and we're gonna annihilate those cravings, because any situation that causes these cravings can be fixed, okay? And we're gonna make sure and pinpoint what that is, and we're gonna fix that right then and there on the phone call, okay? And then the second thing that most people do not deal with properly, that most people are dealing with, is they're not burning body fat for fuel. And I say body fat for fuel, okay? Because there's a lot of people that have tried ketosis before, and they've even got into a ketogenic state. They've used the pee strips, and it shows a high level of ketones and they're in ketosis and everything else, but they're not losing any weight. So what's going on? What's happening is that they're burning dietary fats for fuel, but they never get their body to where it's burning their body fat for fuel. It's a big difference. So we're gonna make that process happen. I'm gonna show you techniques to get your body to start utilizing its own fat stores for fuel. And once we get that happening, it's gonna be a simple process, because then you're just gonna be running off of fat stores, and the fat will start melting away as time goes by. So, guys, don't get overwhelmed by any of this, because you can do this, okay? Regardless of whatever situation you're in. You know, I did it in my situation, being completely like bedridden, wiped out, and poisoned, and everything else that I had to deal with. And I've known so many other people that have been severely overweight, 200 pounds, whatever that was, that have taken all this weight off. So if I can do it, if they can do it, you can do it too, okay? So I look forward to talking to you on this phone call. I know we're gonna make some real progress for you in your life, and we're gonna get you from where you're at now to that perfect weight, that perfect health, feeling better, feeling attractive, feeling awesome, having that energy, that focus, having that life that you deserve. And so I'm ready to serve you and kind of be your guide and help you get there. So I look forward to our call together, and I will talk to you then. So take care, and I'll see you on the phone call.